So we are now at 84. We got a million plus, plus, plus. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Unfortunately, my gavel is in our closed up Jewish Community Center building where the Federation.
Oh, there's Zadie.
Zadie. Hi, Jamie.
We all got unmuted.
Why do you have it turned away from you?
Hello?
Without them, second. Thanks for your patience.
All right, try this again.
Okay, folks are muted. Okay, I think I'm the one that is unmuted, and that's the way it's supposed to be right now. I was starting to say I had the honor of chairing my final executive meeting recently, board meeting recently, and normally I would have my gavel, which is my late father, Alav Shalom, gavel from his years as president of Shaare Zedek Synagogue in Montreal, which has always been very meaningful. So symbolically, Dad, for you. At this point, we have a quick audiovisual review, video of the year in review. Just take a couple of moments, and that will also give opportunity for a couple more folks to come on. So we're ready for that to roll.
יחד לב אל לב נפתח ונראה את האור שבשמיים. יחד לב אל לב נפתח בתקווה לאהבה. איך שהלב נפתח חובק את העולם ובקריאת עולם נשיר לאהבה. אם הוא הכל אפשר זה לא מאוחר, השחר ועלה זמן לאהבה. יחד לב אל לב נפתח ונראה את האור שבשמיים. יחד לב אל לב נפתח בתקווה לאהבה. ורק אם נאמין ובלי שום דאווין בדרך העולם זה שיר האהבה. לה 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 לה
Welcome, everyone. Greetings, everyone. My name is Stephen Aronson. I've had the privilege to serve as president of the Jewish Federation of Greater Ann Arbor for the past 2 years. It is my honor to welcome you to the annual meeting of Federation this evening. This is a historic occasion. It is our first and hopefully last annual meeting by Zoom. I think probably everyone in the world, certainly everyone on this call, is suffering from some Zoom fatigue at this point. In planning for today, we have done our best to keep things concise yet preserve meaning, to inject our usual Hamish warmth and intimacy as if we were meeting in person. Be'ezrat Hashem, we will be able to do so again and soon. A couple of procedural points to please keep in mind. We've arranged for closed captioning to be available at this meeting. If it doesn't appear directly on the screen, please look at the bottom of your screen and click the Show Subtitles button. I also want to remind you, and what we went through before in beta, I guess, was a test run of the fact that you will be automatically muted until specific times when, for instance, a voice vote needs to be called. This meeting's event is being recorded. And the last thing, as we have already demonstrated, is that all technology, certainly Zoom, we might experience glitches, and we're grateful for your patience, and hopefully that will be at a minimum. I want to specifically recognize Isaac Ellis, our stage manager of the evening, and his amazing team of technicians who are all behind the scenes tonight, orchestrating the sequence of events for the evening. After you registered, you should have received by email packets of materials or links to packets of materials to read beforehand, including some business items we're going to go through quickly this evening, including proposed bylaws changes and an updated agenda. Please feel free to refer to these during the meeting. I would like to welcome the following spiritual leaders, leaders of our community organizations and government officials who are here with us this evening. And please accept apologies if I have missed someone inadvertently. We've been doing our best to update the list from our registration site steadily right up until the start of the meeting. Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, Chris Mattis, representing Senator Gary Peters, Israel Consulate General to the Midwest, Remy Schreiber, representing our great good friend Aviv Ezra, who we know so well in this community, and Ann Arbor Chief of Police Michael Cox, who had an opportunity, which he ran with, to give his address earlier as people were logging on. Mike, we do thank you for your presence, and we look forward to working together. From our Jewish Community Center, Dave Stone, Executive Director, Bruce Moyer, incoming board president. Unfortunately, Jesse Bernstein, the outgoing board president, sends his regrets. He's not able to be with us this evening. From Jewish Family Services, Susan Stefanski, board president. Anya Abramson, executive director. Hebrew Day School of Ann Arbor, Jennifer Rosenberg, head of school. Gil Seinfeld, board president. Congregational leadership, rabbinic leadership, Rav Aaron Goldstein, Rav Jared and Standig, Rav Nadav Kane, incoming Beth Israel Congregation President Deborah Ball. I also want to welcome Professor Marty Shechtman, Director of the Jewish Studies Program at EMU, and Professor Carla Goldman, Director of the Jewish Communal Leadership Program at University of Michigan. At this point, I'm pleased to introduce Rabbi Nadav Kane of Beth Israel Congregation, who will deliver the Dvar Torah. Rav Nadav, please.
Thank you for the opportunity, everybody. We're in the book of Numbers, as we all know, and a strange thing happens in this week's Torah portion, which is that Miriam, Moses' sister, is struck with some weird plague, disease, scaly skin, because she says something, we're not sure what she said. It says, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman he had married. He married a Cushite woman. What the heck's going on? The one thing the commentators all agree on, the rabbis of blessed memory, is that Moses had long ago moved out of his home and into his little tent of meeting, where he communed with God. In order to be in a ritually pure state, to commune with the divine presence, Moses would be continually depriving his wife Zipporah of her conjugal rights, and thus, in effect, leaving her behind as de facto divorced. Rashi suggests that Miriam was upset that Moses had left his wife Zipporah, Cushite, because she's Midianite. She's a dark-skinned Yemenite, maybe Arabian from that area. So Cushite, Rashi says, is a term thought to refer to dark-skinned Africans, could refer to the dark-skinned Zipporah. But Rashi's grandson, Rashbam, one of the other great rabbis, considers it could refer to a new dark-skinned African woman that Moses has now taken up with and left his first wife behind. We're still not sure. Rashi quotes a midrash that Miriam would be standing up for her friend Zipporah, who the commentary imagines watched as the male elders leave for a prophesying retreat. And she says, woe to their wives. They'll never see them anymore. They'll always be at work. Rashi wonders why Miriam is punished with a bout of scaly skin. She didn't mean to defame Moses. She was just seeking justice for his dark-skinned wife Zipporah. So Rashi concludes, we must learn that if Miriam is wrong to use her words with the best intentions, woe to the rest of us who would ever use our words not with the best intentions. Rashi goes back to the strangest that Zipporah is called Cushite. It's called black. He writes, Cushite is slang for a woman who is as beautiful as a Cushite is black. The numerical value of the Hebrew words beautiful and Cushite are the same, Rashi points out. But then Rashi says, or what if I'm wrong? And what if it's meant that black is a nasty term, as we wish the evil eye not to pay attention to us, and we call things by their opposite? The other rabbinical commentators are horrified by the suggestion, and Ibn Ezra says, that's ridiculous. Black is purely a compliment, and it definitely refers to Moses' wife. She's black and she's beautiful. One more commentator, the Bekor Shor, adds that Moses is so humble that he has married a black woman. Suggests that it shows Moses isn't too proud, whereas someone too proud for that would not have. I'm not sure I like this at all. I can't tell whether he's saying that it's a bad ethical quality of snobbery for a white to only marry a white or something, but it still sounds weird to me, or whether he was saying that Moses did a lowly thing. So I'm really uncomfortable that Bekor Shor spoke up at all. And then he adds that all of this was part of Moses marrying a black woman was part of a divine plan that continues to unfold into this day, and we're not sure why. I'm not sure if I love that or if I'm also horrified by it. So what do we learn from all this? We learn from this that it's a thankless job to try to find the right words when it comes to issues of race. No matter what one says, one feels almost immediately that it can be misinterpreted, or perhaps has problems built into it because of the ways we've been acculturated to thinking about the issues. Miriam is punished for calling Zipporah beautiful, with only the intent that the founder of Judaism move back in with her and make more babies. Rashi almost says that black is beautiful, but doesn't quite get there, and then is berated by the other commentators for falling short. He then awkwardly allows that it could mean the opposite, is berated again, and then we have the issue of the divine plan, that it was meant to be. This past week, Carla Goldman presented to members of our congregation about celebrating women's suffrage, and we wondered whether we needed to cancel the whole thing, because early in the women's suffrage movement, they excluded the rights of black women to vote, largely for political reasons, in order to be more practically effective. Should we cancel the whole thing? Carla pointed out in her remarks, I found so interesting, that maybe, but on the other hand, the women's suffrage movement, now 100 years old or longer, obviously, really began as abolitionists. And it was women feeling they weren't being heard about abolishing slavery. And so they decided they needed the vote so that they would be heard. The Federation and the Jewish community, we have to speak up about these issues, even when we know we'll probably mess up and get berated by someone who's deeply uncomfortable with the words we shared. Do we speak up loudly in support of Black Lives Matter? Are we concerned that some association with the BDS movement will come back to haunt us? a movement that says Israel is all about the American race issues, even though it's clearly not, but no one should go there to see for themselves. Do we jump in and commit the Jewish community to take action for racial justice in this world? Or will we be accused by the left of taking away the voices of others and inserting ourselves when we should be listening? But if we listen too long, have we not done enough? Will we be accused by those on the right of losing our focus? Wasn't there a synagogue or a Jewish-owned store vandalized? Shouldn't we be talking about that? What we do know is that whatever we say will be criticized. And yet, what the Federation stands for is a Jewish community full of voices that need to be heard. We need to be heard on issues of Israel, even if it's uncomfortable and we know that someone will be offended. We need to take issue with the causes that we need to fight for racial justice in Israel. We need to speak up for issues of race and justice in Ann Arbor as we work to support the institutions that heal our community and help those who have been victims of injustice. We need to raise up the Jewish voices of Ann Arbor to reach the halls of our politicians in America and in Israel. We need to support Jewish education in all of its facets. What we do know is that what Miriam was doing was trying to bring justice. And that's something we cannot avoid doing. Thank God for the Federation and its work in supporting those who raise their voices. Thank you.
Rav Nadav, thank you so much. Yishar kochacha. Rav Nadav and I spoke yesterday in anticipation of his remarks and my remarks, and I'm just speechless. Thank you so much. Connecting so many different things that are just with us all the time right now. It is now my honor to present the 2020 awardees of the Susan L. Lichter Memorial Endowed Scholarship, Talia Castell and Elijah Rasul. This scholarship annually provides 2 teens from the greater Ann Arbor area with $2,500 to be used toward peer-based Israel travel. Through the generosity of Carolyn and Paul Lichter and their family and friends, this scholarship fund was established in memory of their daughter, Susan L. Lichter, Zichrona Livracha, who had a deep connection to Israel developed through her own Israel travel and learning experiences. Since 2009, the Susan L. Lichter Memorial Scholarship has enabled dozens of teens from across our community to visit Israel, where they developed a connection to our worldwide Jewish community. These experiences have influenced awardees in many different ways, from choice of their college major to even decision to make Aliyah as young adults. I know you all join me in thanking Paul and Carolyn for their longstanding leadership and generosity to the greater Ann Arbor community, as exemplified by this endowed Israel scholarship and so many other examples of your wonderful generosity, and by so much else that you do, including your so frequent wise counsel, for which we thank you. I thank you personally as well. Talia Castell is a graduating senior from Washtenaw International High School. This fall, she plans to attend Eastern Michigan University, where she's excited to take Hebrew language classes. Ms. Castell will be applying her scholarship funds to travel on a NEFTI, Reform Movement, Jewish Youth Movement Program, NEFTI. Strong summer camp affinity for her, as I discovered today when I spoke to her parents, that will take her and other teens on an immersive 4-week trip throughout Israel. She shared in her application essay, here you are, thank you, that traveling to Israel would be a dream come true. Building my relationship in a country that is so important to me will be amazing and help solidify my Jewish identity. Israel will hopefully become a place that I consider home. Talia's parents will now present her with her certificate to be signed once we are able to meet again together in person. Mazal tov, Talia. Kol hakavod.
Thank you.
Elijah Rasul is a rising junior at Washtenaw International High School. Yes, the same high school. And in my introductory phone calls today to both families, because normally we would have done this in our schmooze prior to the meeting, right? So I wanted a little bit of connection before I discovered, and that they had recently discovered, although they're a little bit separate in age, that they're at the same school. And in fact, they're both doing volunteer work right now for local political campaigns that are important to them. Elijah will be traveling on a month-long excursion with the Israel Scouts, the Tzofim, on the Chetz V'Keshet program. This trip takes high school students around Israel, of course includes stays with host families, allowing participants a glimpse into daily life in Israel. In his essay, Elijah shared that his inspiration to travel to Israel was based on his mother's time living there. Elijah wrote, "My mother shared that the experience of being on the land, knowing your ancestors used to live there, gave her a closer connection to the Jewish community. I want to have that same experience." Elijah's parents will now present him with a certificate, also to be signed once we are able, soon together, Alavai, in person. Mazel tov, Elijah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, and kol hakavod. COVID-19 has dramatically altered summer travel. Thank you, Carolyn and Paul, for graciously extending these scholarships to be applied for Talia and Elijah's trips next summer. And we look forward to hearing about their experiences next summer and wish them the best of luck for this coming year. And you know what, guys? We might even call on you even before that for some more activity in the community prior to your trip. Thank you so much, Paul and Carolyn, for everything that you do. And mazel tov to Talia and Elijah. At this point, I want to move over to something that is very meaningful for me personally. And I know I speak on behalf of the leadership, the lay leadership of this community, and specifically the wonderful, and I apologize for the expression, but it's an expression we've been using for a couple of years now, our wonderful kick-ass board of directors of this federation. Unfortunately, again, it's a transition for 3 board members who are transitioning off the board, but not out of activity in our community or in the Jewish community at large. So I'd like to take a moment to honor Laura Udell, Donnie Wall, and Tamar Springer, who are completing terms on our board. Each of you has brought wisdom and your own unique style of leadership to our work. For the past few years, we have purposely had a small, nimble board. We did this on purpose. This has made for cohesion, has allowed each of us to contribute and stand out each in our own way. With no opportunity, guys, as demonstrated by what we've done, to contribute, with no opportunity to sit back and blend into the background or, chas v'chalila, into personal cell phone reverie. That doesn't happen in our meetings. Laura, Donnie, Tamar, each of you is a leader in your own right. Each of you can be, each of you will be, sitting exactly in this chair sometime soon. As part of an intentional plan to reworking the board function, we've also paid attention to term length so that we keep refreshing the board with new members, something I'm personally proud of and we're all proud of. This also means that community work and work between meetings takes on more emphasis, a process that Randy has announced he intends to continue and accelerate. So part of this is we know that you will continue to be active in campaign and on other working committees. I'd like to say a couple of words about each of you in turn. Laura Odell was one of the founders of JYP, Jewish Young Professionals in Ann Arbor, and played a key role in transforming Jewish young adult engagement in our community. She has served as a board member since 2015, actually most of that period as an officer on the executive committee. Laura, I remember how struck I was when we first met on my return to board membership 5 years ago by your unique combination of emotional intelligence and just plain intelligence, which enables you to so often cut to the chase in tricky and heated board discussions. To get through what you, in our discussion just yesterday, said, you know, Steve, getting through the chaos to find the commonality that allows us to get through difficult decisions. Laura's company, and we tried hard to change their mind, no, we couldn't meddle, moved her to Chicago in January, and you know how you have been sorely missed since then. And of course, we wish you all the best in your endeavors in Chicago. We also know however, your visceral connection to this area, whether it's Northeastern Ohio, Ann Arbor, Michigan area. So this may not be either or, so never say never. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I've really missed everyone, and I don't plan to be a stranger. So, you know, when things are up and going again, I'm hopeful I can come visit everyone soon.
Wonderful. Donnie Wall, here we are. Oh, wonderful. And future board president sitting on your lap. Donnie Wall was a member of the first cohort of Levine Fellows and joined the board of our federation in 2016. This was relatively soon after Donnie, you and your wife Sarah moved to Ann Arbor from the Detroit suburbs, where they were already active in the Detroit Federation and community. Now, the Walls had a pre-existing connection to Ann Arbor as University of Michigan students, where, if I recall correctly, where you guys met. A little known fact, well, actually a better known fact, is that Donnie played basketball for U of M. Donnie played point guard and even played against Michigan State. Some really cool stories about that. A less known fact, but is important, is that Donnie is also a member of the Michigan Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. Donnie recalls many highlights in his and Sarah's Jewish community activity and activism in Ann Arbor to date, but foremost among these, as we discussed the other morning, is the Israel trip as Levine Fellows. And this for several meaningful, powerful, personal and family reasons, Donnie, as you have shared with me and with others. Donnie, you have served with distinction on the board and on multiple committees, and we know you will continue as an active member. You're not going away so quickly, and we know that.
Steve, thank you so much. Thank you, Eileen. Look forward to many, many years in the Ann Arbor community, you know, helping out the Federation and being part of it for years to come. So thank you. It's been a privilege and an honor.
Wonderful. Music to our ears. Tamar Springer, here we are. Tamar and Stephen. Tamar Springer joined the board of directors of Federation in 2018. Listen, guys, after playing hard to get for several cycles of our governance board development committee until we finally nabbed you in 2018. I distinctly recall 2 successive years in which your name appeared on those little colored bits of paper that Jenny Lewis would bring to these committee meetings that designated our talent targets. Tamar had already distinguished herself in strategic planning with the day school, work groups, and other organizations. I know HDS, TBE in particular. As soon as we got to know you, we understood why your wise counsel and your presence in leadership is so sought after. Your perspective, your incisive analysis, and your wisdom so often carry the day in our board discussions. And your contribution was apparent from the start. Tamar continues active in her professional organizations as well as the Jewish community. And as per our modus operandi, this is not goodbye. It is lehitraot till the next committee meeting.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's been a pleasure serving on this board and working with you and Eileen and the wonderful staff of the Federation.
Thank you. We're so grateful for the contributions the 3 of you have made during your board service. And we have sent you some tokens of our appreciation. We hope that you will think of us when using them to make a difference in the community. At this time, I want to pay special recognition to a special person who's been a valuable member of our Federation team since she joined working with us in August 2018, Sharon Gallatin. Sharon has spent the past 2 years spearheading the critical work of resource development as our Chief Development Officer. And I want to recognize Sharon as the skilled professional, the committed Jew that she is, and as the amazing human being that she is. Sharon joined us in this formal position from a distinguished career in volunteer leadership, lay leadership, both on the East Coast where she grew up, holding key positions in federations in New York, New Jersey, and more recently in the Detroit Jewish community. Sharon, and this is really important stuff coming up, guys, is an alumna of the prestigious National Young Leadership Cabinet, which is Jewish Federations of North America's 6-year leadership program, which so often serves as the springboard to leadership in our communities around the country. Sharon is clearly someone who gets it, and this has been true throughout her career. She has always placed community and especially federation at the top of her list of priorities. She's held numerous campaign leadership committee positions. She has served Jewish Family Services of Metropolitan Detroit, National Council of Jewish Women, Michigan chapter with distinction. Sharon is an attorney. She's a member of the bar locally in our state, also on the East Coast, and she has worked professionally in multiple different areas. Sharon's volunteer and professional achievements notwithstanding, Sharon always reminds us, and look at the poem, guys, that her greatest achievements are her children, Joshua and Rose. Sharon resides in West Bloomfield with her children and is an active member of Adat Shalom Synagogue in Farmington Hills. Sharon's many accomplishments in our federation have included creating and sustaining relationships, big and small, with individuals, families, and organizations. Sharon, you have played a key role in building momentum in foundation, as well as our annual community campaign, spearheading our community security campaign, and then yet another ad hoc, the COVID Emergency Fund. Who could foresee the resurgence of anti-Semitism with the events of Pittsburgh and Poway and the immediate need for urgent funding for security, thence the creation of our security campaign. And the spring of 2020, with the pandemic and the hyper-acute requirement for emergency relief, and thence the launch of our emergency fund campaign, and the resultant implications for organizations big and small, including us, as we have all had to regroup and retool to do things so differently and far less. Sharon, we love you, we thank you, we wish you the very best in all your future endeavors. We know that in your devotion to Jewish community and Klal Yisrael, our paths will cross often and soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. It has been my pleasure and an honor to serve this community that means so very much to me. Thank you for welcoming me into your homes and into your lives. It means the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, we were going to move quickly to some formal business in this annual meeting. And it is my honor at this time to introduce Lori Barnett, one of our illustrious past presidents who chaired our governance committee this past year.
Okay. Hello, it's really great to see all of you. I was honored to be the Board Development and Governance Committee Chair and really happy to serve along with Joel Abramovitz, Decky Alexander, Steve Aronson, Harriet Bacalar, Marla Linderman-Richelieu, Randy Milgram, Morley Whitus, and Donnie Wall. We had two main goals. One, to identify leadership and to identify strong candidates to join the board, with an eye to maintaining the momentum already in progress to continue a refresh of younger community members into leadership positions. Number two, to review our governance structure, including assessment of committees, and to conduct a comprehensive review of our bylaws to ensure they reflect the Federation's government structure and operation. I'm pleased to say we accomplished these goals. The committee was able to maintain the momentum in developing a diverse and sustainable leadership pipeline. And with the guidance of committee member Marla Linderman-Richelieu, who spent a lot of hours in groundwork and then leading us through the process, we revised and streamlined the bylaws, updating committee descriptions and providing definition to officer roles in compliance with state law and best practices. You've had the opportunity to review the amended bylaws, which were contained in the materials sent to you before the annual meeting. In a moment, I will move to adopt the bylaws, and after the motion is seconded, there'll be an opportunity for discussion prior to voting. Okay, I move to adopt the bylaws of the Jewish Federation of Greater Ann Arbor as amended.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Joelle,
Great.
for seconding. Does anyone have any questions about the bylaws before we vote? If there are questions, we're happy to take them.
You can put them in the chat or unmute yourself briefly to ask the question.
If there are no questions, not hearing or seeing anything in chat, would like to proceed to the vote. Adoption of the bylaws will be by voice vote, or alternately, depending on the decibel level that you want to help us achieve, you have the opportunity of utilizing the chat function to indicate aye or nay or abstention. All donors to the Federation's annual community campaign, all donors or pledges between March 1st, 2019 and March 1st, 2020 are eligible to vote, and we will now unmute you. Yes, we can also raise hands. Thank you, Marty, for reminding us that. 3 ways of voting, but we're not doing anything by mail.
Yes.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Sure.
Are there
Yes. Yes.
any
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
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 Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. I believe the ayes have it. The motion passes. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Marla, and everyone who's involved in this very important process. We now move to the next order of business. Lori, you're still on the hot seat. Don't go away.
Okay, I'm still here.
To present the next product of the hard work of the Governance Committee, the presentation of the slate of Board of Directors. Lori, take it away.
Great, thank you. And that was the most interesting vote I've seen. So thank you so far. As I mentioned earlier, we were charged with identifying a diverse and qualified group of community volunteers to join the board for the 2020-22 term. The slate of candidates, including their bios, were included in the materials sent to you in advance of this meeting. Continuing board members in the middle of their terms are Joel Abramovitz, Decky Alexander, Stephen Aronson, Randy Milgram, Marla Chinsky, Murray Rebner, Dahlia Nahanmani Goldman, and Liz Werba. Continuing board members up for re-election in this year's slate are Hannah Goodstein, Babette Levy-Daskin, and Joshua Sukenik. New board members on this year's slate are Michael Davidoff, Marla Linderman-Richelieu, Rob Stern, and Andy Tankenow. Again, in a moment, I will move for the approval of the slate. After the motion is seconded, we will vote. Okay, I move that we approve the slate for the Federation Board as presented.
I second.
Thank you, Laura, for seconding. That was fast. You're good. You've always been good at that. Are there any questions before we take a vote? If there are questions, we're happy to take them. Approval of the slate will be by voice vote, and Lori, hopefully you will be as enamored by this process as you were a few moments ago, or you may vote in chat, or as Marty reminds us, you could put your hands up, you know,
Yes.
Zoom, or the way I just
Okay,
demonstrated.
yes.
Aye.
Okay, yes.
Yes. Yes.
By March 1st,
Yes.
are eligible to vote. I know you're unmuted. I'm behind. Everyone in favor say aye. Who has not?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Mazel tov to our new board.
Great, great. Okay, now moving on to one more thing, but no more voting right now. The slate of board officers will officially be elected by the board at their first meeting. They are President Randy Milgram, Vice President, President-elect Decky Alexander, Secretary Joel Abramovitz, and Treasurer Marla Chinsky. So can we do a little applause for them? That's not in the script, but let's do that anyway. So thank you again to the Governance and Board Development Committee for your thoughtful and dedicated contributions. It's really been a pleasure to work with you, and I want to say my own congratulations and good luck to the new board and officers. Thank you.
Lori, we want to thank you. Lori, we want to thank you for leadership in this process. You've been such a key pivotal leader for us for such a long time. and your ability and your willingness to come right back out this year and do this with us has been amazing. Thank you so much. I
My
look forward
pleasure, my honor.
to continue to working with you in my soon-to-be new role as a fellow.
Yay.
Has been, I mean, past president.
Thank you.
Ann Arbor Jewish community. Now we move on to what will be, I promise, a particularly invigorating and inspiring moment in our get-together this evening. Ann Arbor Jewish community, we are in for a treat. In a moment, I will introduce our keynote speaker, and those who were with us for the few moments prior to 7 o'clock, dodging the lightning bolts out there, had an opportunity to interact a little bit in our schmooze with Eric Fingerhut. But first, let me tell you a little bit about him and why he's a special guy. Those who have met Eric or who have heard him speak know that I'm referring to his warmth and eloquence, his vision, his commitment, his quintessential manner of leadership by example, and by the way this blends with and presents with humility. Let me give you a little bit about Eric, who, by the way, did I mention, happens to serve as president and CEO of Jewish Federations of North America, JFNA, a position he was awarded about a year ago, I think to the date almost, and that he assumed in early August, just under 10 months ago. Prior to coming to JFNA, Eric served as president and CEO of Hillel International, an organization that, let's first. Okay, I just realized I've been muted. How long have I been muted for? No? Okay.
Just like a word.
A word.
Literally a word.
So I said we said now something about Hillel in Ann Arbor. So I mentioned Eric's connection. What else can I say to impress you about Eric? Who, by the way, did I say impresses by his humility? So he's not going to give you this list. So Eric has been a congressman. He represented Ohio's 19th congressional district in Washington, D.C. He also served as the state senator. He has a passion for education, as you can infer by his connection with Hillel for those years. He served as chancellor of the Ohio Board of Regents, leading Ohio's network of public universities prior to return to Jewish communal service in his position heading Hillel. But folks, this is where it comes together. What's the expression? Pedal hitting metal, where leadership gets tested. Crisis happens. COVID happened. And I apologize, by the way, for my residual COVID hoarseness. But most importantly, when we have leadership that gets tested in moments of crisis. Eric, did you have any idea how valuable that Washington, D.C. experience was going to be, how valuable it was going to be a little later in your career? Well, dear fellow members of a small Jewish community in the Midwest, Eric Fingerhut has been absolutely critical and pivotal during the COVID crisis for us and all other American Jewish communities, big and small, shepherding Jewish communities throughout the country through this crisis, through the government assistance programs that have protected our payrolls to the extent possible. Not only federations, but JCCs, synagogues, Jewish Family Service, and other social service agencies, day schools, camps, and I know I'm missing some other types of organization. Eric's leadership in the support of Jewish communities, large and small, has been incredible. Accessing resources, advocating, in energizing survival of Jewish community organizations, so crucial to smaller ones like ours in facing the challenges of limited resources. His leadership is marked by bringing people together, just as we're trying to do in our local community. Please note, we'll be collecting questions in the chat room, which we will then take, we'll moderate after Eric's remarks. So please begin bringing in questions there. Eric Fingerhut, it is my honor to introduce you to our community.
Steve, thank you so much for that way too generous introduction. So look, I know a little bit about Ann Arbor. I hear that you're a very open-minded community and very inclusive. So the fact that you've included an Ohio boy in your annual meeting here tonight is something that I very much appreciate. I want you to know that I didn't go to college in Ann Arbor, but I didn't go to college in Columbus either. But when I was in college, Like many of you who have been active in Jewish life, I got, conscripted to teach Sunday school at a local synagogue. I actually went to college in Chicago at Northwestern University. I was a busy college student, so I'd show up on Sunday, and I wasn't always completely prepared for the Sunday school class. And one week, there was somebody, a teacher, who hadn't shown up for younger kids, and I really don't know how to teach younger kids back in high school. You can imagine, I had nothing prepared. So I walked into this classroom completely unprepared with these young kids, and I saw that there was a stack of paper and some crayons and drawing materials there. So I had the students, I passed out the drawing materials, and the only thing that came to my mind was, I said, draw a picture of a personality or an important important person in the Torah or in the Jewish Bible, and then we'll all discuss who you chose to draw. So the students, young people, they started drawing. They took out their crayons and paper and started drawing. And I'm walking around. I'm looking over their shoulder, and I see one young boy is drawing a picture of Abraham. I said, beautiful, really a beautiful thought. The first Jew, Lech Lecha. And I keep walking around. Another student is drawing a picture of Moses. I can see the staff. It's a beautiful drawing. I keep walking. Another little girl's drawing a picture of Esther, because you can tell it's Queen Esther with the crown on. So beautiful. And I keep walking, and I get to little Lisa's desk. I'm looking at this drawing, and I'm looking over, so I can't figure out what she's drawing. So I said, Lisa, what are you drawing? She said, I'm drawing God. I said, but nobody knows what God looks like. She said, they will when I'm done. So I want to say that I think we are in a Lisa moment right now, because we are in the midst of two simultaneous crises facing our country, our communities, our Jewish communities, and we don't really know what it's going to look like when we're done, right? We're in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. The fact that we're having this meeting by Zoom tonight is, as Steve already pointed out, is an indication that we're not in a normal time. Our communities have been very, very hard hit. Many of our family members and our neighbors and our friends are going to be unemployed, are unemployed. We've had much suffering and pain throughout this time. We've lost people, and we haven't been able to be with them. Extraordinary. But at the same time, this community, this federation, and communities all over the country have come together to begin to try to paint a picture, to draw a picture of what our world is going to look like post-COVID. And then we, of course, now are faced with a moment of real soul-searching and a radical action needed in our country as we've come face to face with the legacies and the real presence today of racism in our communities as a result of the murder of George Floyd, which has put right in front of our faces the need for dramatic change. And just as we look over, as I looked over Lisa's shoulders, we look over each other's shoulders, and we don't know what will that world of justice and peace and equality for all look like. It's not a picture that we have already painted, that we are familiar with, but it's one that we are committed to build together, and I submit that we will build it together. Now, it takes leadership to do that, and you have many great leaders who are here with you today, and they've been recognized. My friend Steve Aronson, who's been way too kind to me, deserves a huge credit and thanks by this community for his leadership. He's been active not only on behalf of Ann Arbor, but also at the national level representing you. He's been a calm and clear and an intelligent voice for the leadership of the national system. Your incoming chair, Randy Milgram, a wonderful, terrific leader as well. My friend Eileen Freed. Eileen is one of those people that, what was the old, the commercials that, we stop and listen when somebody speaks. E.F. Hutton, right? That was at the commercial. Like when Eileen Fried speaks, everyone stops and listens. She's an amazing leader for us. The public officials who are here and their representatives, the Consul General, of the Congresswoman, Senator, we needed and we've needed the support of our public officials, and they have been there for us. The police chief and the others who are here. I want to say thank you for your public service. I so believe in public service, and we so need to be in dialogue with our public officials and those who serve us in government. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here. And I also want to say that my great claim to fame tonight is that Laura Udell is my cousin. So I get to claim one of your great leaders. We have a lot of cousins, by the way. Her grandmother and my great grandmother and my aunt and mother had 13 brothers and sisters. So we have lots of cousins, but she's one of them, and I'm proud of her. But it doesn't take leaders like Laura and Steve and Randy and all those that we've recognized here tonight to make this world, to draw the world that we want to see, the post-COVID world, a world that is healthy for all, a world that is that enables all of us to live the life we want to live, and certainly a post-racial world that enables us to live together in equality and peace. We don't need leaders to do that. Rav Nadav, I want to say that when you gave the Devar Torah, I was worried for a minute that you would share my Devar Torah for tonight. But fortunately, we chose different sections of this week's Parsha V'Halotcha, because my lesson from this week's Parsha is actually, even though Moses is in the Parsha and Miriam's in the Parsha and other greats, you don't need leaders. This Parsha has one of my favorite stories of the Torah, which is a famous, an important, but not very well known, I should say, mitzvah called Pesach Sheni, the second Pesach. Did you know that if under certain circumstances you miss the 14th of the month of Nisan, the time when we make the Passover sacrifice and we tell the story, the night when the Israelites left Egypt, that you have a chance a month later. And the story goes like this. It's in this week's Parsha, that there were just ordinary working people who worked in the community, and their particular job was to attend to the burial needs of the community. And because it turned out that they were attending to the burial needs of the community, when the first Pesach, when the 14th of Nisan came around, they could not participate in the sacrifice because in the ancient times, if you were handling a corpse, you were considered impure and you couldn't participate in a sacrifice. But they didn't just take that, because the honor, the ability to contribute to the community by making the Passover sacrifice was so important to them that they actually went to Moses, the leader of the community, and they said, "Lama nikara levilti hakriv et karban aroshem b'moda." Why can we not? Why are we deprived and not able to offer the Passover sacrifice just because we were impure at the time, because we were attending to the needs of the community? And what did Moses say to them? He said, "You know what?" He said, "Imdu v'eshma'a." Let's stand and let's ask God and let's see. And what does God respond? God gives a second chance. Says, okay, if you were in fact unable to perform the Passover sacrifice on that on the 14th of Nisan, do it on the 14th of the second month of the year. Rabbi Steinsaltz, Rav Steinsaltz, who's one of the great, the Talmud Chacham of our time, says this is one of the few instances in the Torah where a commandment, a mitzvah, is introduced as a divine solution to a human request, from which we learn that we can ask God for the power to act on behalf of our community. We don't need to wait to be asked. We don't need to wait to be asked to be on the board. We don't need to be asked to be the chairperson. We don't need to be designated as leaders. We get to say, we want to be leaders. There is change that we want to make. There's a mitzvah that we want to perform. And our Torah teaches us this week that if we do stand up and if we do ask, and we do want to perform the mitzvahs, absolutely, we will be called on and given an opportunity to do so. And I just want you to know that not only is that what you've done in Ann Arbor, but since I'm here to represent the Jewish Federations of North America, 146 federations and 300 what we call network communities, smaller communities, Jewish communities across the country, that every single one of them has stood up and has said, we're going to be counted. We're going to lead in this moment of COVID. It's easy in good times to make fun of the alphabet soup of Jewish organizations, right? We're the most organized community anywhere on the face of the earth. We have organizations for every purpose. And again, we can make fun of ourselves. It's like the old joke about, the synagogue that I go to and the synagogue I don't go to, and 10 Jews, 11 opinions. We know all the jokes, right? So 10 Jews, 11 organizations, we're all there. But it's at moments like this when we understand the wisdom of our organized Jewish life, because you cannot create a community in a time of crisis. You have to build a community every day, all the time. Then a community already organized, already together, already having built the institutions that are necessary, can add additional effort, right? Can ask Moses, I want that other chance, that extra chance to lead. But without the community already in existence, you couldn't do it. So the fact that this great federation and 145 other federations takes care of its community year in and year out, has a board that works year in and year out, raises funds for the community year in and year out. The fact that you do that every year, all the time, is what prepared you to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. We could not have built the community instantaneously to do the work that you have done. And it's because you're organized as a community, because you have a community relations council, because you already have relationships with your public officials, as I can see from this program tonight, that you will be able to respond to the crisis that is facing our country in racial justice and in our basic works of our community. So Steve shared with you some of what has already been done across the federations. In addition to the resources that are already there, communities like you raised additional emergency funds to meet the COVID needs. Our rough total is that in just 3 months, it's well over $165 million of additional funds. Steve mentioned the work we did to access, to frankly help the government see the need in the nonprofit sector. And our government listed, thank you, Congresswoman Dingell and Senator Peters and the others that are on the call today for listening and hearing and helping. And then the ability to get those resources out to the community. We think close to $500 million in resources into the Jewish community, and simple things like helping our nursing homes and our human services agencies get the personal protective equipment they needed. It was, the marketplace was chaotic. There was no way for some of our smaller human services agencies to get the equipment they needed. And so we literally went out on the marketplace and bought $5 million of personal protective equipment and shipped it to nursing homes and to human services agencies. And we're still doing. These are the things that an organized community can do. And similarly, we can do such things now as we work to build our civil society and to address the challenge of racism in our society. First, if we are truly going to be the Jewish community's central address, if we're truly going to be the organizer of the Jewish community, then we have to look like and reflect what the Jewish community is today. We must be committed to including Jews of color in every leadership level, in our staff levels, and our lay leadership levels, and we will do so. Steve mentioned that I had the privilege of working at Hillel for 6 years before taking on this role. And I want to say that my friend and mentor and teacher, Michael Brooks, I know is on this call somewhere. Remarkable human being from whom I learned so much. And his successor, Tilly Shamas, also my teacher. But you know, I knew by being at Hillel that our young people were way ahead of us in knowing what our community really looks like today, and what leadership, truly inclusive leadership of a community looks like. And we will lead. I know, Randy, you'll help us lead, and Eileen, you'll help us lead, and all the rest of the board will help us lead in making sure that our federations are as inclusive and as representative of our community as all of our institutions should be. And we have influence in the broader community. I just mentioned, and Steve mentioned, our ability to work with our public officials here on the call today on subjects that directly impacted us. We've worked with them on anti-Semitism and on security, a topic that's been discussed here. We have a terrific federal program that supports nonprofit security grant, is a nonprofit security grant program, and it benefits, of course, all nonprofits, as does the CARES Act and all the other things we worked on. But we will put our government relations work and our community relations work to the service of those important issues and legislative solutions that are going to come forward with respect to police reform and racial justice in the coming weeks and months. We have the ability to help, and we will help, and we will support our communities to make sure that we respond. So our agenda from last year was full. Our agenda for next year is already full. I just want to conclude with a note of gratitude and thanks. I'm so proud to be with you. I am so grateful for the leadership that you have provided and that you will continue to provide. I'm so hopeful because of you for the future. I am so confident that the picture that we're going to draw together of a community that is healthy, a community that is safe, a community that is welcoming and inclusive, a community that cares for others, a community that's connected, as I heard through the scholarships of the Jewish people around the world. This is what a flourishing community looks like. I didn't, with those young children, say, draw a picture of a flourishing community. Even I in college knew that was too big an assignment. But to you, I can say, let's together draw a picture of a truly flourishing Jewish community, one that exemplifies all the very best of our Jewish values and our communal values. And let's do that together in the time to come. On Shabbat morning, when the Torah is still out, we say many blessings. We call them Misha Berachs. We bless those who are sick, and we bless those who have had aliyahs, and we bless those who have been a mitzvah, and we bless new babies and all sorts of things. And we also bless the community. We say Misha Berach, Avotenu, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, we barech et kol, kahal hazeh, at the call of the community, not just the congregation, the entire community. Those who provide for the needy, those who help the bride and groom, those who bring yayin the kiddushal havdalah, wine for kiddush and havdalah. Then we say Misha oskim b'tzorchei tzibur be'emunah, and all those who serve the community with truth, be'emunah, with righteousness, with sincerity, and with love. And so I want to bless you as a federation in a community that is truly serving your community be'emunah, with truth, with love, and with caring. I want to thank you for all that you've done. I want to thank you for letting me be part of this meeting. And Steve, I'm happy to answer any questions or let you get on with the important business of the meeting, whichever you prefer. But toda rabah, mikol halev, thank you for including me in this meeting.
Eileen.
Thank you so much, Eric, for your inspiring words. As we mentioned earlier, much earlier in the call, I've been honored to hear you and see you in front of your bookcases at numerous Zoom calls, really too many to count. And I never cease to be inspired by your leadership and your words of Torah. So thank you so much. So we do have a very interesting question from Samantha Hendren. there was an op-ed in the New York Times about the CARES Act being the end of separation of church and state due to payments to religious organizations. Do you have any concerns that any short-term gains will be offset by the erosion of separation of church and state?
Yeah, it is a terrific question, and the short answer, I'll start at the end and work my way back, is no, I don't. But I want to say, you know, because it's such an important question, that it was raised during the legislative process, and we were really quite direct about the fact that, first of all, this the CARES Act, as the representatives of the senators and Congress members of the House on this meeting know, applied in a completely non-sectarian way. It applied to all nonprofits. It applied to all faiths, all houses of worship of all faiths, and it was clear that there were no conditions that were related to any matters of faith whatsoever. So we were quite careful about it. I do want to just say one word, since you've given me a chance to talk about the CARES Act, and again, with gratitude to the legislators who are on the call. What a historic moment it really was. I mean, Steve teased me a little bit because I have a legislative background in the state legislature and in Congress. Maybe I was a little bit more attuned to what was likely coming. But every time there's been a major economic challenge in our country, there's been a major economic response. I mean, just recently, think about after 9/11, there was a major governmental package that helped airlines and other industries. After 2008, after the real estate collapse, we bailed out the automobile industry, as you well know, in Detroit, in Michigan, and a number of other industries as well. But never had the government included the nonprofit sector in these bills. It was such an important case to make to the government in this case. And again, your legislators were so receptive to it, and I'm so grateful for them. But you think about how we're organized as a society. This is a college, university town. We have lots of professors here. We're not a social democracy on the European model, or even on the Israel model, where government provides almost all of the social services. We're a more limited government, and most social services are delivered in a partnership between government and the nonprofit sector. So when you have a crisis like this pandemic, it was critically important that the nonprofit sector be viewed as an essential component of the economy as much as any other business was. And that was really the historic nature of this. So I think that was the focus on nonprofit, less so on the on the religious side. And I hope it sets a precedent for including nonprofits in future such measures, but not a negative precedent.
Thank you so much. And thanks to Jason Schwab for that question. So Gary Freed has been asking me this question probably for the last 9 months, and that is, what is the origin of the name Fingerhut?
So it's actually the part of it is easy, and part of it is like typical Jewish geography, right? So it's a German name, and it's a hat for a finger, Fingerhut. So it's a thimble, and they were tailors. The Fingerhuts were tailors. So it makes perfect sense. The only problem is there isn't any German that I can tell in my family. I have no idea where it came from. Both my father's family and his parents came from the same, Eastern European pale of settlement that, that was Poland, Russia, Lithuania, whatever was there. So somehow somebody either brought the name into that area, or there was a moment of translation that occurred somewhere. But Fingerhuts are tailors, and there's a few others in different languages that carry a similar name.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And so Eric, we sent you a couple of gifts to express our gratitude.
I have them right here.
Good. Maybe spotlight, whoever's spotlighting. There we go. Yes. Oh, good.
I didn't open them yet.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
You told me not to open. Let's see if I can get okay. Go. Beautiful.
Yes. So we hope you enjoy that, and I believe there's another little a gift. I know you're an Ohio boy, but the Memden at U of M Hillel is happy to present you.
I'm proud to wear it. I want Michael Brooks to know that I'm putting it on.
Wonderful. Well,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I'm now honored to turn the proceedings back to our outgoing president, Stephen Erickson.
Thank you. Thank you, Eileen. Eric, thank you again so much, and for making the trip to be with us for the day and this evening. That's the rain check. Okay, thank you. I'm standing here, and I know it's our house. It's not our Federation and our JCC offices where I stood here 2 years ago. And I'm pinching myself, not just the passage of time. Kind of reminded of what some of our community leaders have been mentioning to me in the last number of months as we've been working on our transition, our Dor Hamshech, and continuing transition and melding younger cohorts of the community with some of the older folks like myself, the graybeards who are still hanging around a little, and thinking about transitions and thinking about passages and thinking about stuff that's happened. And my predecessor, Neil Blatt, and I think you're on the call, and thank you for being here with us tonight. And thank you for all the mentoring prior to and even the beginning and through my presidency. 6 months in, I remember our sitting down and just saying, Steve, what happened to me in 3 years and what's happened in the Jewish world and in Federation just in 6 months. Babette Daskin, our wonderful, wonderful campaign chair, has been making similar comments for most of the last 2 years. So it's kind of the old John Lennon saying, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. So I'm flashing back to where we were 2 years ago very quickly. As a community in the midst of a number of transitions, multiple different rabbi transitions in the community. Transitions of leadership, executive leadership, lay leadership in some of our major Jewish organizations. Lots of discussions about sharing resources and maybe not integration, but consolidating function. One thing I do recall promising, which is again, Dor Hamshech, bringing younger cohorts involved. And I used the term earlier, I'll say it again, that kick-ass younger board that we've had, and now some more, and lots of business people, an Arbor academic, professional community, but we're getting folks with real world business and CPA and MBAs and people who are, again, a somewhat different slice of the community. Promise that as well. But then, what happens when you're busy making other plans? It's almost like a Dayenu, and trust me, this is going to be optimistic and thinking forward and building bridges. But there's a little Dayenu litany here. Pittsburgh happened. Poway happened. Halle happened, Halle, Germany. And then the twin viruses of the first part of 2020, the pandemic of COVID, and then the earthquake, the racial divide in this country that does not go away. Again, the quaking of that divide and the quaking consequently throughout our community, throughout our country. And how do we respond? And how have we responded as a community, both nationally, and thank you again, Eric, for your insights, and Eileen too, for reminding us of what we've done nationally. But what have we done locally? We moved into action. Yes, paraphrasing, quoting you, Eric, agendas change. We moved ahead quickly. Who can forget that wonderful gathering at Temple Beth Emeth in just a few days after Pittsburgh? Over 1,000 people there with us that evening, from throughout the Jewish community and throughout the larger community, including representatives from every major religious group in our community. We'd already, thanks again to the very prescient wisdom of our wonderful executive director, Eileen, we had already, in our community leadership council, we had already begun to prioritize security and the need for acceleration of appropriate attention to and shifting resources to security. That had already begun to happen, but it accelerated. It accelerated. And thank you to all components of the community for working together. And one thing that characterizes this wonderful Jewish community is the ability and the reality of playing together well in our sandbox. And that does not happen everywhere. And we can't take it for granted, and we're grateful for that. And thank you, Dave Nelson and the Security Committee, representing all facets of our community and working together over this time. I mentioned Halle, Germany. And I remember being struck, and I remember we talked about this at successive board meetings, and I think we made a little bit of a deal with this in the community when we began to understand it. I'm trying to remember, it was well before Michael Masters' visit to our annual meeting to our community a year ago. It was well before that we began to understand that the reason that the entrance to the Halle, Germany shul that Yom Kippur had been hardened with security cameras and 50 Jewish souls davening on Yom Kippur, lives were saved because the Jewish community of North America, through our overseas allocations, security inspections and surveys had been done in that community already. The work had been done. My goodness, thank you, God. Thank you, God. So this community pulls together as one. And again, we're always proud about that. So we threw bouquets earlier at Eric and the JFNA leadership and Mark Wilf, who chairs the national leadership group and the lay leadership. But lots of folks here locally too that we need to continue to remember to be grateful to. Our COVID crisis. And thank you, Eileen and Sharon, your leadership in bringing this together and bringing this together quickly. And thank you, Gary and Rachel Glick, and of course, Mike Levine, for some major matching grants early on that allowed us to get some traction. And thank you to organizations big and small, Jewish Family Services for picking up, as you always do, the wonderful work that you do for the Jewish community and the larger Jewish community. And wonderful people like Steve and Andy Schiff with that incredible initiative of making masks and raising, my understanding is probably well over 10. I'm going to round up to $13,000 if it's not high $1,000 at this point exactly for these needs. So we pulled together as one. Our Rejuvenated Foundation is an example of the kind of thing that we also, when we've had a spare moment between crises, our foundation, Rejuvenated. Thank you to the work of that foundation committee, Alan Brilliant chairing that for a while, more recently Randy Milgram, and a special thank you to Susan Fisher for again stepping to the plate and leadership and agreeing to lead the foundation committee going forward now, and for being so energized by our Life and Legacy program, something that Eileen mentioned from the start of her tenure a number of years ago as our executive director, how important Life and Legacy is going to be, and the wonderful uptake throughout our community. And with our foundation committee, and again, under Susan, your leadership in spearheading that. You know, when you go through a list of gratitude, you've got to be careful because once you start, you know, you're going to miss a number of folks, but I apologize. I'm going to be remiss here and there. I mentioned Babette, campaign chair this past year, co-chair previously, Steve Gerber, I know you're on the call, and Joyce as well, your leadership, Sarah Wall. I owe you, by the way, we owe you the Lion of Judah pin. All that has been, of course, been delayed because of COVID. The wonderful work of our campaign group and all that you've done. Murray Rebner, leading a very busy allocations committee, and we all know with our very constrained financial issues and realities these days, the hard work that you guys are doing to try to keep the community whole. Our Rejuvenated Jewish Community Relations Committee with the wonderful initiative of Deki Alexander, our new vice president, new president-elect, and the work that's has begun to get going in that vein as well. I want to remember as well, we have wonderful, wonderful staff. I mentioned earlier a couple of names. I'm going to go through our staff list quickly, but I want to call out Isaac Ellis and Stephanie Glass and Jessica Weil and Marcy Sukanik and Margaret Schreiber and Rob DeShane and Kayla Capon and Julie Good and Courtney Bushnell. Thank you for your service from relatively recently as well. We have a kick-ass board. I'm so proud And I know I got probably a little emotional, and that comes from, where it comes from. And I'm so proud that we have this continuity going on. We have great community partnerships. We talked about JFS a moment ago, our wonderful work together with our partnerships with the Jewish Community Center as well, Hebrew Day School. We have a tireless executive director to whom, Eileen, I am so indebted for all that you do and for these last few years working so closely together with you. Eileen is so committed to this federation and to this community, and not just one organization, but Klal Yisrael. Tireless visionary work. Eileen, we couldn't do anything without you. Your ability to multitask on the head of a pin, I don't know who else is able to do that kind of thing. Special words of some personal mentorship. Thank you to Michael Brook, to Rav Nadav, to Rabbi Kane, to members of the executive I've worked with in the last few years. I mentioned Neil Blatt, Randy, all the work that we've done together. Laura Odell on our executive for a number of years. Marla Chinsky, your amazing emotional intelligence. You guys are cut from an amazing, amazing, amazing cloth. I want to close with one other point. And I don't want to go back to a downer Diana list, but I did mention we have COVID virus, we have the racial injustice virus. The racial divide in this country has again been an epicenter, an earthquake epicenter, yet another reminder of so much of what we have to remember and keep learning about implicit bias. But I want to focus back in this important work regarding the Jewish component and the special role of the Jewish community in what we do and what we do historically, and why our community bridge building is so important as we focus on that going forward, as I mentioned a moment ago. As our great friend, State Representative Ronnie Peterson has personally reminded me and taught me a number of times in the last 12 or 18 months, that it was Abra Joshua Heschel who walked in Selma arm in arm with Martin Luther King Jr. That it was back in 1905, 1906, the creation of the NAACP, Rabbi Stephen Wise and multiple other Jewish leaders, together with leadership of the Black community, in founding the nascent NAACP movement. So our fledgling JCRC movement here in Ann Arbor, we have a lot of work to do as well, however. So when our great friend Ronnie Peterson, when we have these discussions of racism and unity, we must also remember that the dangers of polarization going too far, as they sometimes do, in the direction of blind intersectionalism can potentially have troubling implications and subsume implicit bias with often too frequent ignorant statements that some on different parts of the political spectrum make about Israel and about Zionism. So when House Bill HR 246 and our inability to engage and teach others that the symmetry, the basic symmetry of working together as different community groups, how important that is. And we need to take every opportunity, continue to work on that, and to remind our elected leaders of how important that is. Again, thank you, Ronnie, for reminding us of all of that. So I will be transitioning in just a moment to introduce the next president of the Jewish Federation of Greater Ann Arbor, our great friend Randy Milgram, True Mensch, and I believe that might be the next item on the agenda here at this point. So I have this distinct honor to tell you about my friend and our next president, Randy Milgram, whom I've had the honor of working with as a colleague on the board for the last 5 years, and the pleasure of getting to know better and better as a person over this last year, especially while we worked together as vice president and in his role as president-elect. I can say that in lockstep with the above, our friendship too has grown to the point that getting to know Randy has really been one of the most positive and fun aspects of the past year. I love you, brother. That, by the way, guys, is how we often begin and end our conversations. And through all of this, my conviction has been rock solid from the start that we have made the right choice. Randy is clearly the right guy at this point for all the right reasons. Let me just tell you a little bit about him before I hand the gavel and the mic over to him. Randy grew up in Oak Park, Michigan, where he went to Cheder with Larry Adler, which he never ceases to remind me. Randy completed his undergraduate degree at the University of Michigan, where it seems he was bitten by the bug of Michigan Wolverines football, is that right? Quite possibly to a degree stronger than me, perhaps potentially rivaled by that of Josh Chinsky. I believe it was at said esteemed institution of higher education, but then you corrected me earlier today, that young Mr. Milgram met the love of his life, Patty, but that's not true. He actually met Patty growing up in Oak Park and then reconnected with her when he moved west, California dreaming, to pursue law school education at UCLA. And Patty was living somewhere else on the West Coast. They got together. He graduated law school, UCLA, hung around there a couple of years. After thoroughly learning the ropes of the world of corporate law in the City of Angels, he saw the light. Randy and his young family, by this point, I believe, including young Sam, moved back to the Midwest, back to Ann Arbor. Randy works as a writer and editor with professional achievements in the corporate and academic realms. One of his outstanding recent achievements was the bicentennial history of the College of Engineering of U of M, and all-consuming. I remember, Randy, when you're working this project that occupied so much of your professional life, quite a long period of time. Randy and Patty Milgram have been active members of the Jewish Cultural Society. Randy's been a member of Federation committees going back over 8 years. You were first elected to the board, right, in 2015. Clearly, you've been a leader from the start with a style marked by a thoughtful perspective that is incisive, often out of the box, utter respect for others and utter respect for others' viewpoints and how others feel. And an ever-present and irrepressible thank you sense of humor. Randy headed our Strategic Communications Committee, where he created a sea change in the direction of our community communications enterprise and professionalized it. If there's one experience with Randy that captures in my mind's eye his Jewish spirit and commitment, it was at FedLab last fall in Washington, where in session after session, Randy, your invigoration and energy were so palpable and inspiring. I'm not sure I ever told you this. I will never forget one session in particular. Yeah, I know, you thought I was going to talk about the fact that we spent about 2 minutes watching a Minnesota Vikings football game at the bar, and Mark Wilf walked by, who's the chair of JFNA Leadership Board, who happens to be the owner of the Vikings, and we're watching an NFL game with the owner of the team with us for a couple of minutes. No, I want to talk about something else. This is a particular session, a large room with hundreds of attendees having just finished lunch, and our Eric Fingerhut, which you guys now know and understand where I'm going. Eric took the stage for what may well have been an impromptu presentation on the theme of Jewish renewal. In his inimitable way, Eric moved suddenly from an elegant, fluid eloquence to a now sensory, almost primal, repetitive musical poetry. And Randy was the first in our group, first at our table, to jump up and join in song and movement with the hundreds of Jewish leaders around the room swaying with the music. It is my honor and pleasure, not just to embarrass you, my friend who I love dearly, to present our new president, Randy Milgram.
Steve. What a wonderful and passionate man you are. And how difficult will it be to follow you? So I thank you for your kind words. You did embarrass me, but I do appreciate them. And if you'll please indulge me, I would like to reciprocate for a moment. And in fact, I'd like to take you all back to the first time I interacted with Steve. He and I had been vaguely aware of one another, I think through mutual friends, but it wasn't until Steve returned to Federation as a member of the board that we really start to get to know each other. And I distinctly remember thinking after the very first time he spoke, now here is a guy with a really interesting mind and a uniquely intricate and interconnected way of thinking. Just a really smart and passionate guy, I thought. I also remember very early on that Steve had missed a board meeting and that I had missed hearing what he would have had to say. And I don't know if Steve remembers this or not, but I either wrote him an email or I told him face to face how much I valued his singular approach to issues and especially the way he articulates them. I just remember feeling the need to tell him how much I appreciated his presence and how much his absence was felt. And so now, Steve, here we are several years later, and I will admit that during that span of time, there might have been an occasion or two when I thought, well, here comes one of Steve's tangents. But it didn't take me long for me to realize that it's in those tangents where the knowledge resides. It's in those excursions into all of the relevant forces that might be at play where the true wisdom rests. Steve takes it all in and he looks at every issue from every angle, and he doesn't just see those differences, he feels them. And most recently, Steve's become a valued mentor, whether he realizes this or not. And not just because I'm pretty sure it's the first time I've said this out loud. And it may be the first time I've said it to him, so I'm sorry about that, Steve. But also because sharing what he knows and what he thinks in the most giving way possible is just something that seems to come naturally to Steve, just without a second thought. It's part of who he is. It's part of what he is. And I have been a great and grateful beneficiary of that largesse. But more than anything, Steve's generous. He's generous in his care for others. He's generous in his sense of compassion and in the sharing of his many passions. You heard his passion was on full display tonight. But perhaps most of all, he's generous with his time. I mean, he's always on the phone with people. I wish I could look around and see all the heads nodding. I mean, raise your hand if you haven't received a call from Steve. There's probably not one hand raised, okay? I mean, he's always on the phone with people. He's always telling me, I just talked to so-and-so about such and such. And I think, how can he be doing all this, especially since I know he's constantly on the phone with me? But I simply don't know where he finds the time that he relentlessly devotes to Federation. He makes the time. He just always makes the time. And so going forward, it's a blessing for me to know that Steve will be staying involved as an active board and committee member for at least another year. Although, Steve, I don't know if I heard you mention that, but you are staying on. I wouldn't even want to think about doing this without his continued support. So I'm grateful. In this past year, especially, Steve and I have formed a bond. He mentioned this, and we're colleagues, we're partners, but most of all, and this is what I feel most proud and fortunate to be able to say, we're friends. And I can think of no greater gift that my work with Federation has thus far granted me than that. So for me, and on behalf of Federation, our entire community, I want to simply say now to Steve, thank you. Thank you, my friend, for your many years of wise and impassioned service to this community. Now, in that regard, I think that we may have a gift for you that you may also already have. Yes.
Another artifact of our COVID era. Everyone received their gifts ahead of time. It's about the distance of 2 Canadian hockey sticks, socially distant. I have to say.
Okay.
And I hope it doesn't take as much time to unpack as Eric's.
The wrap.
Oh my goodness, this is so well wrapped. I want to thank everyone. Thank you so much. This is so wonderful. Thank you so much.
You need to show everybody. They can't see it.
Okay, well, one is up here. Whoops, the plate that's got to go back in there. Thank you. And other bubble wrap. And then, Randy, I'm going to beg your beg permission to take the floor for another moment before we turn the gavel over, or the meeting over to Eileen, if that's okay.
This is a surprise.
Oh, wow. My goodness. Thank you so much.
It's a kaleidoscope, and I think in looking through it, it makes me think of sort of the vision, the kind of visions that actually Randy was talking about, how there's all these tangents, but it always comes into a beautiful picture, and it also expresses your love of music. So
Thank you so much. Well, you know, sometimes, and as a psychiatrist too, I paraphrase tangential thinking as thinking out loud. You've heard me say that a million times. Thank you, Randy, for your remarks and for everything, and I so look forward to continuing to work together. I mentioned Patty Milgram. I mentioned Sarah Wall. I mentioned some other family members involved with people who help support us with our work. Lavana, I don't know what I would do without you. I love you so much, and words don't capture. Thank you.
It's okay. You'll still get dinner. Don't worry.
You're gonna see me at home a little bit more often now, maybe, if Randy says it's okay. Thank you, everybody.
So I mentioned, that was nice, Steve. I think Patty's on the call. I don't have anything to, hi, Patty. I think actually my son and daughter-in-law and my 4-year-old grandson, maybe the 8-month-old are on the call too. I don't know, but so I know we're running late, but I have been asked to say a few words of my own. But I know one thing already that I'm going to do differently. You know, next year I'm not going to be one of the last. I'm not going to be the second from the last speaker. I'm going to speak from the top. So. So beginning a few months ago, I had been making notes in anticipation of the remarks that I would be making tonight about plans for the future. And then the pandemic hit. And so I threw those notes away. I'll come back to some of those plans and those notes in a moment. But first, I would just like to say a few words from my heart. My brother said to me the other day, "You're not going to cry, are you?" So there's a family history there. But I was honored and humbled and more than a little surprised when I was asked to become incoming president. When Jenny Lewis made the announcement at last year's annual meeting, even my dear friend Elaine Margolis, who I'm pretty sure is still on the call, whom I've known since we were school kids in Oak Park, she said to me, "Where did you come from?" And I thought, well, fair enough, because though I'd been doing Federation work at that time for more than 8 years, it had been mostly in the background. And before that, it's definitely true, I'd never been all that engaged in Jewish life here in Ann Arbor. So I understood Elaine's question. But over the last several years, as I found myself saying yes whenever I was asked to do more, I really wasn't sure why. I mean, I understood I was doing something on some level that I just wanted to be doing. It was something intrinsic, but I had no idea where it was going to lead. And now I know. And as many of you know, in mid-March, Federation turned on a dime to reorder its priorities and to take the lead in guiding the community through this crisis. And which has meant a refocused intensity on our immediate present, in many cases, just to ensure that some among us still had a future. And tonight, what I'd most like to convey is how fortunate I have felt just to have had this work to do, to get outside myself and to be involved, even if only in some small measure, in attempting to attend to the needs of this community and to be able to do so with people I've come to love. Simply put, my Federation work has brought more meaning into my life. It's brought a heightened sense, not just of identity, but of belonging and of what it means to be part of a community. It has brought me more friendships, more kinships. It's brought me more joy. And now, during this crisis, we've all acquired a greater sense of purpose. And I'm poised and primed to do more. And I'm thankful to be in a position to try to help all of us do more. So as for those notes and plans, Steve covered it, but it all starts with our wonderful executive director, Eileen Freed, and the dedicated and talented staff she's assembled. And staff never does get enough credit. So I would just like to add to what Steve has already said, just by simply acknowledging and thanking all of them again. And as for Eileen, she has operated with tenacity and resilience from the start, well before the onset of the pandemic, during which time those qualities especially have truly come to the fore as she's guided us over the obstacles that have been placed in our path. Eileen is always seeking to learn more, always open to new and bold ideas and methods, and always bringing those innovations to the board for its consideration, which is precisely what is needed now more than ever as we begin as a community the process of reopening. It is undoubtedly a time of great transition. And at Federation, a transition of sorts has already been underway, as Steve also talked about, and as he gets much of the credit for. The board's become younger and more diverse with complementary skills and expertise. And that trend continues with the 4 new members you have all elected tonight. So I'm confident that we are well equipped to meet the challenges ahead. This will continue to be a working board, and working together with Federation staff, we will strive to further an already ambitious agenda. First and foremost, we need to be secure. We need to help those most in need. And we need to do all we can to sustain our local institutions and to maintain our communal way of life. And we have 3 separate campaigns already in place to address each of these essential pillars. And now I'm proposing a jump start for a long discussed initiative that will be crucial, not just in building an effective bridge to the next generation of Jewish leadership and to the broader transition that awaits us, but also to the work being led by Decky Alexander, who as of this evening is now Federation Vice President and incoming President, to broaden our horizons through a newly revitalized Jewish Community Relations Committee. We must spread the word about Federation. And to do so effectively, we must have a meaningful and comprehensive demographic study of the greater Ann Arbor Jewish community. We already know, or at least we feel we know, that the community is changing and maybe even has changed. We have lots of anecdotal evidence to support this, but we need to have a much more precise understanding. We need to learn not just who we are, but also what our community most needs, what it most wants, and what it most wants to give before we can truly grow our membership and extend our reach. And this is not just about a youth movement, although young is good. But my hope is that we'll attract people of every age and background who are not currently involved in the Jewish community, probably for a variety of reasons, and would like to be, even if they don't know it yet. Perhaps someone like me a decade ago. But they may not even know how to go about it. So now this will, of course, require more resources, and no one should be lulled into thinking that raising more money in the current environment won't be difficult. Yet, one of the many things we've learned during these last couple months during this pandemic is that our gut reaction that this would not be the right time to ask for money was exactly wrong. It turns out a crisis is precisely the right time to ask, because that's when the help is needed the most. So while we all know it will be challenging, let us also be willing to surprise ourselves and to persevere. Thanks to all of you who have already given so much, and to those who can, please keep giving. As I close, I'd just like to add one more personal note. I have been learning so much, but I have so much more to learn. If I don't come around to you to say hello, and I promise I will try to, and soon, in some form or fashion, I hope that you will not hesitate to reach out to me. I very much hope to hear from you and to see all of you on a regular basis throughout my 2-year term and beyond. Thank you all very much for your attention tonight. And with that, I will turn things over to Eileen for some final remarks.
Thank you so much, Randy. And I want to thank you and Eric and Steve so much for your kind remarks. I certainly am not sure that I live up to them, but I'm really grateful for the team that made them possible. And also, because of the position in which I find myself, I will not be reiterating all the amazing and wonderful things about the three of you, but we have talked about those more directly. So I will just head into my remarks, saying that it's never wise to set oneself up to speak after Eric Fingerhut, Steve Aronson, and Randy Milgram, especially when your remarks are all that hold back your audience from turning their computers off for the evening. So I will keep this as brief as possible. Our tradition places great emphasis on gratitude. In Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, it says, "Who is rich? Those who rejoice in their own lot." At this time of transition, upheaval, and uncertainty, it's all too easy to wallow in all that is difficult, and there's a lot right now. And it can be challenging to connect with hakarat hatov, recognizing the good. I know I've personally struggled with that. One way some Jews practice gratitude is by daily reciting 100 blessings, essentially thank yous. I will not engage in that now, but I'd like to share a few ways in which I'm thankful and aim to look forward with hope and positivity. I'm grateful first and foremost for our incredible Federation team, our professionals, our board leadership, those who are leaving, those who are coming in, and those who are sticking around, and volunteers who work with great passion and compassion in support of our community. I'm so appreciative of the Federation staff in particular, who did such a wonderful job of making this remote meeting seem as though it's something we do all the time. I'm grateful for my colleagues and their volunteers who lead and serve our local Jewish communal organizations and congregations. We are developing ever stronger collaborative partnerships that will enable us all to flourish, even and in spite of this ever-changing and challenging environment. And I'm so grateful to be part of a national federated system with strong leadership, resources, and support that has and will continue to bolster and assist smaller federations like ours to best serve our communities. I am immensely grateful for all of you generous individuals, families, and businesses who give of their resources to support this community. Your tzedakah to the annual community campaign enables us to meet the basic needs of our partners here in Ann Arbor, in Israel, and around the world, so that they can focus on their important missions of caring for the vulnerable and building vibrant, flourishing Jewish community. Through your tzedakah to the security and COVID emergency campaigns, we have been able to help our communal organizations and congregations keep their members safe and secure. Your endowment, donor-advised funds, and bequests through the Jewish Community Foundation and the Life and Legacy program, which will be kicking off very soon, and you'll hear a lot more about it, all contribute to the long-term financial sustainability of our community. And your tzedakah directly to those causes, programs, organizations, and congregations which comprise our vibrant Jewish community demonstrates your deep commitment to caring for our most vulnerable, educating our next generation, meeting our spiritual needs, and making meaningful, productive connections with the broader community. Thank you so much. So now we'll look forward. We'll think of new ways to collaborate with and support one another as we begin to reopen our community for the business of building community. We will expand our efforts at connecting and acting together with other faith, ethnic, and civic groups to improve our civil society. And we will start creatively thinking and planning for the future, one in which together we will nurture a strong, caring, engaged, connected, vibrant, and enduring Jewish community here in Washtenaw County, in Israel, and around the world. We look forward to your partnership in that process. So now I want to thank you to everyone who joined us this evening. Thank you for being here in our Zoom room. We're very grateful for your participation. And I invite anyone who wishes to stay on the screen to schmooze. I know we were supposed to schmooze a little at the beginning, but I think you're welcome to stay on board. We haven't had many opportunities to gather lately, and you're welcome to do so here. And with that, I'll say thank you. Thank you to everybody who participated. Have a lovely evening. Laila Tov.